Hey guys, this is just going to be a review of the Jupiter 3 and a showcase of a photo book I just made, all using shot on the Leica SL2s, and I still can't believe that I'm holding a Leica camera in my hand. I'll probably do a review further down the line, but currently I'm shooting with the Canon 1.4 LTM lens, so I'm using all vintage lenses on this Leica SL2s. I got this pretty at a decent price on eBay just because it got scuffed up a bit, and I don't care. The camera's working 100%. I still haven't shot video with it. I'm just purely shooting photos, and majority of the time I'm shooting with vintage lenses, although I do have some Lumix L-mount primes and zoom lens that have been pretty good with this as well. So yeah, this photo book was all made with the Jupiter 3 vintage lens. I think this lens is absolutely fantastic. I got this for a pretty good price on eBay. It was for about $600, and I guess that's a good price. But when I saw online, people were saying this was about £100. When I bought it, it was 500 to 600 Australian. So I was a bit disappointed with how much I paid for this lens, but that's the best price I could pay, and it was probably because of shipping all the way to Australia, which is why it cost or just under $600. And I also had to get a lens hood for this as well, and it's vented. I guess that's for what do you call it? Rangefinder cameras. That's why they have it a bit vented there. But I personally don't like lens flares in my photos. It just takes me out of the scene. So any chance I can get to take away lens flares, I normally do. And yeah, the Jupiter 3 has been fantastic majority of the time. So call me crazy, but I have been shooting a lot, all of this, live sport boxing. I've been shooting on a manual vintage lens. So call me crazy, because it is very difficult to shoot live sport with a manual focus lens. But what I do, I don't shoot wide open when they're boxing during the main activities. So sometimes I do, but most of the time I shoot at f2 or f2.8, and the aperture ring here is it's not clickable. It's just a smooth aperture ring there, so it might be good for video. I've never shot the Jupiter 3 on video. And if the boxer is having a break or in between rounds, or they're just standing there and maybe they're doing drills, like they're moving around, or they're active, but they're not moving around much, then I'll quickly switch it to 1.5. So it's a bit out of it. So as I'm taking photos, they're not boxing, then I'll, turn the aperture ring wide open, shoot, they're back boxing, and then I'll go to f2, f2.8. So literally, I have to visually look and see me turning the aperture to what I wanted. I can't do it not looking. I physically have to turn the camera around. Whereas if you shoot with a autofocus lens, you can just change the aperture, usually just with controlling the camera. So I think it's a lot faster to shoot with autofocus lenses, not only because it's autofocus, but because you can usually change the aperture controls from the camera. Whereas manual lenses, you physically have to, look at, okay, they're not boxing, let's go to 1.8. Okay, they're boxing, let's go to f2.8. You know what I mean? So f2 to f2.8 during the boxing, 1.5 in between rounds, or if they're not moving around as much. And when you shoot this wide open, you get this really beautiful vintage glow, and it's quickly becoming definitely one of my favorite of the vintage lenses. I'm doing another photo book with the what do you call this, Canon 1.4, or the Japanese Summilux. I'm doing another photo book same style as this with this lens, so I'll probably do a review further down the track, and it might be a thing way further down the line that I'll continue buying vintage lenses. But at the moment, I really want to put into practice shooting vertical, because that's just how the world is going at the moment, with people viewing everything on the mobile phone. So I'm practicing heavily vertical, and all with the 50mm lens. I want to get really good at the 50mm focal length. It hasn't been, I've always liked the 85, and you remember before I shot this photo book on the Leica 42.5 on the GH5, and this was all, very, very close. You can see here, because it's 85 focal length, all the shots here are very close, and I love this focal range. The issue with boxing, you generally want to see the physicality, the boxer, how they're standing, the action and stuff like that. I was finding with the 85, although I love it, I love portraiture, you get a lot of drama, but you're not getting the physicality of the boxing. So, you know, shooting 50 mil and vertical has been a big challenge for me, but getting rewarded, like putting this as my goal at the very end has definitely, you know, having this as my goal at the end and being rewarded with a physical photo book and one that I can look back on and just see how my photography has evolved is very rewarding, knowing that I have this to go for. So this is a local boxing gym. I'm actually one of the boxing coaches there. I box when I can, but my mum is very ill, so I look after her majority of the time. But when I can, I go to the boxing gym. I am an assistant coach there. I do get paid when I'm there, and I also do all the social media for this boxing gym, and I do a mixture of photos and video, and a lot of the videos I share on here as well. And I've also converted my videography to being vertical as well the majority of the time, purely because that's just the other way the world's going, with mobile phones being the most dominant form of how people consume entertainment, with Reels and TikTok and all that. I don't have a TikTok yet. I should really get that. But yeah, so this is the photo book that I went with, the brand Milk. So you remember I showcased this one shot on the GH5 with the Leica 42.5mm lens. I absolutely love this photo book. It's beautiful, but my issue with this company, and this was done by Snapfish, is that the black and white just doesn't look anything like what it looked like when I was... these images don't look like the black and white that I'm seeing in Lightroom. It's like they got a blue or greenish tinge, maybe bluish tinge to it, like they as if they got the curve and they clicked on the blue channel and just added blue to the shadows or something. I don't know, it just doesn't look like black and white. But I'm very proud of this photo book. This is done by Snapfish, probably under a couple of $100. They were very fast getting it to me, and the book is very durable. Like it just feels like this is going to last a very, very long time, and it's still something to look back on with the composition and everything like that. Like, I'm really, really proud of it. It's just not the black and white that I'm seeing in what I'm seeing on the computer when I'm editing. This other company, and you would remember this is shot with the GX9 with the Leica 15mm lens, so all micro four thirds these. This was, I'm very, very proud of this, but this company was by Photobooks, and they don't ship out to Australia anymore, but this would have been my go-to photo book company forever had they not, if they had kept shipping to Australia, because this black and white actually looks a lot closer to what I'm seeing in Lightroom. I'm really loving... I absolutely love this photo book. I'm very, very proud of it. But unfortunately, the company just doesn't send to Australia anymore. And yeah, this is all street photography stuff. Absolutely love doing this. And I got pretty good. So this is pretty interesting. I absolutely love the 85mm focal length, or 42.5, and then shooting with the 15mm, which is 15mm on micro four thirds, which is the equivalent to 30mm. I got really used to the 30mm focal length. So now shooting full frame with this Leica camera, Leica SL2s and vintage lenses. Again, I can't believe I'm holding a Leica. It's just I got it for a good price on eBay just because it got scuffed up. But shooting now with a full frame camera for my hobby photos, I went with this photo book, and shooting all vertical as well with Milk. Now, Milk is... this was recommended to me by a few people. They're saying this company is really, really good. They were very expensive. And to be honest, when I first got it, I was so disappointed. Like, this was one that I could afford. This was like $200 or I think $250. These were around, from Photobooks and Snapfish, these are around $200 each delivered, and hardback. And they just feel durable. This by Milk doesn't feel very durable at all. This is it did say it's a magazine. I knew what I was getting into when I looked at it, but it's in a magazine format, but these pages feel like they're going to bend really easy and get really dirty really easy. So I can't really say it's a coffee table book, because this will get scuffed up really bad. So I was a bit disappointed when this came in the mail, but I've absolutely fallen in love with this book, and I've got to continue to use Milk, and this is going to be my main photo book series, going forward. If obviously I continue to shoot vertical, the black and white is just so beautiful, So I'm really loving it, and also. My eyesight isn't bad, so normally I like really big photo books. Like you can see my hand here, how big it is. And I was like, oh, do I go with the smaller one? I absolutely love it because it doesn't take so much space on the bookshelf. So I really like it. So on with the showcase of this photo book with the Jupiter 3 lens, 50mm, and the Leica SL2s. So call me crazy, shooting all boxing with a manual focus lens. And even to further extend that, this was all shot with Leica Monochrome as well. So you guys are probably thinking I'm absolutely crazy, which I am. So all this is with Leica Monochrome Jpegs. I didn't use the DNG files, which are the raw files for Leica, in case you didn't know. I normally like to shoot underexposed. I can't shake that off. I always photograph underexposed so I can protect my highlights so I can bring it up later in Lightroom. This one I went really hardcore because I just, you gotta like it, man. I love black and white, as you know, so I just had to had to use the Leica Monochrome. And as you know, I shoot in a black and white profile as well, so I can see the peaking. I think I covered that a lot, and that blinking there is just the overexposed. It doesn't have zebra on this, unfortunately. Really disappointed this doesn't have zebra for telling you what's overexposed. This is just clipping. See how it's black and blinking there? That's telling me that's overexposed. So I like to shoot with peaking on. You can see that blue that just slightly on, so that's telling me that's in focus. So that's my only guide when I was shooting all this in manual focus. And I love the eyepiece with the Leica SL2s, very similar to my Lumix S1H, this eyepiece. So I'm very accustomed to shooting with such a really good EVF finder, especially because my eyesight isn't great. But yeah, with the photo book, so all manual focus, all with the vintage lens Jupiter 3, and all JPEG files. For the editing of these files, I did edit pretty much every single photo. I brought it into Lightroom, and all I did was put in levels or curves, brighten it up a little bit, because again, I always shoot underexposed. You don't have much wiggle room when you're shooting with JPEG. So you can brighten it up, but you just don't have as much wiggle room as you do, obviously, editing a RAW file. And then I added grain because I find the JPEGs, just how I got it set in the SL2s, I don't have any noise or grain amplified on there. I think I just have the default setting, so there's not much grain on these photos, so I added grain later on in Photoshop. So that's all I did, brighten them up and added grain. In the design of the photo book, so this front image here is just a mirror, so this isn't an effect, this is just a slightly broken mirror at the gym, and the students were just shadow boxing, you know, in front of the mirror, and I just got this cool shot. As photography 101, we always look for reflections when we get into a space, and I just saw a broken mirror, and it's only slightly broken, just like at the top, and it just had this really cool doubling effect, which I used and abused, and it just made a really cool front cover, as if this is a monster, you know, with many hands. You know, your imagination can fill in the blanks there, or the many dualities of the personalities of boxing. I don't know. So yeah, all black and white, and this was a shot very short period. I've just been shooting really hot lately, like every photo session I go to I don't get paid much when I do social media for this, because it's a good area. It's a good chance for me to experiment with my photography. It's a good chance for me to get that trigger time to really up my skill. And the guys are really happy with all my content because I don't charge very much. And I find most companies are like this, that they're just happy to get content out there. And you know, I'm not being awful with it. I try to make everyone look as cool as possible, so I don't post if they look awful in the photos. But how I structured, so November to January, not a very long span of time, but I shot a tremendous amount of photos just with the Jupiter 3 and the Leica SL2s. So how I structured this photo book, and this is just an introduction to the coaches here, it's as if they're training, so, you know, hitting the heavy bags here. You can see guys or people working on the mitts and doing drills, again, hitting the heavy bags, and it intensifies up. So how I structured it is, so they're doing partner work, you know, they're having, I think this is the only time they're smiling, but they're having a good time, hitting the heavy bag, working out. And then as we get to, as it intensifies, you can see the helmets come on, the sparring helmets, and now they're in the battle. So the images get, they're inspiring. People are watching the sparring, so the images get a lot more heavier, and people are watching. I could do a whole photo book of people watching sparring, so the in battle and things like that. And then how it's structured is at the very end of it, when after the battle, they're fatiguing, they're getting tired. There's breaks in between where they're getting instructions from the coaches. And then at the very end, they're sort of like winding down, they're getting fatigued. Some are a bit bloodied up, just reflecting in between rounds. And then, boxer with his kid there. I think there's a very, very sweet moment there. And then, the boxer's just reflecting on how the days have been, like it's, a bit of exhaustion there. And, things like that. There's another cool shot where the boxers... Yeah, you get. And so there is still some where I shot it horizontally, so normally, but I have converted all my photos to be vertical now. I'm shooting pretty much 100% all vertical at this moment. But there's a really cool shot here with the boxers in between rounds. See if I can see it. I'll probably just bring it up. Sorry, the boxers are in between rounds, just sitting in the corner. But yeah, I'll probably just have to bring that up. So. It's interesting shooting with this photo book, with this camera, with a vintage lens. I've learnt to be okay with the out of focus shot. So when I first started shooting with a manual focus, I started 5-starring or selecting photos. I go, that's a cool shot, and I was only selecting photos where I nailed focus, because when you bring in photos, when you shoot manually, you're going to have a lot of misses, and it's like when you actually nail focus, actually seeing somebody's eye, you're nailing focus, because that's what I'm usually trying to focus in on people's eyes. When I nail focus, I'm what a great shot, but is it a good shot, or did I just say that's a good shot because that's one of the only photos out of so many that I've made that are misses, I actually got one that's in focus. So when you shoot manual focus, especially sports, a vintage manual lens, and you shoot manual and you bring it into Lightroom, you're going to have so many misses. Although I am getting a lot better, like there's less and less misses as I'm getting better with my manual focus. Whereas shooting this photo book with the GH5, and I did complain with the GH5 that it missed a lot of focus. The autofocus was really sluggish, so there were a lot of misses. By gosh, it's like a 85% hit rate shooting on the GH5 with an autofocus lens, or 90% hit rate, versus this Jupiter 3 manual focus getting like a 10% hit rate, although that's getting better. I'd probably say now I'm on a 40% hit rate, maybe even 50% hit rate, because my manual focus is getting better and better. Like when I hit f2.8, I know when I'm nailing focus. 1.5, oh my gosh, the plane of focus is just so thin, but I am getting a lot better. The focus guides, the peaking definitely helps, and zooming in. So I click that button and it zooms into 100% off. Well, I might as well just illustrate that, So say that tree over there. See, I've zoomed in just by pushing that, and then I can focus in on that there, and then push it again, or click the shutter, and then I'm zoomed back out. So that's one trick to help me with focus. But I've learnt I've fallen in love with shooting with a manual focus lens, because you get flaws, and learning to live and be okay with, that's out of focus, that's not in focus, and things like that. And then, but looking at the image as a whole and just having a feeling, rather than going, is that in focus? No, okay, that's not in focus, I'll skip past that. Looking at an image, do I get an emotional reaction? Is it in focus? It doesn't matter. I had an emotional reaction. And there's some photos in here, like this one I'm just bringing up here, where yes, it's out of focus, but there's something about it that draws you in. The intensity of that image draws you in. And then, I've been, shooting with lower shutter speeds just to add a blur. So that's a little trick. So you always shoot with double the shutter speed. So a 50mm lens, you want to be minimum 100 frames per second to avoid motion blur with your hand. So every time you take a photo with a camera, as you push the button, the camera slightly jiggles. So you can counteract that by shooting at higher shutter speeds. But if you want a little bit of blur, so as the boxer punches, you want a little blur on their fist as he makes that punch, just shoot with the shutter speed a few under, like shoot at 80 frames per second, shoot at 60 frames per second, and you will get quite a good motion blur, and the head should be in focus generally, as long as they're not moving their head at the same time. And that's how you create blur. So I've been shooting with that. Even on an autofocus lens, that trick works. But shooting with the manual focus lens, you just, like, I try to get in focus. It's not like I'm trying to make it blurry. I'm trying to hit focus, but like, oh, I missed focus, but they're happy accidents. So shooting manually, I've fallen in love with it because I get these happy accidents and I come up with images that I really can't come up with conceptually. Like, I couldn't come up with an idea to come up with some of these images. Like, they just come up by accident, and I'm like, whoa, wait, that's actually a good shot, and it goes into this photo book. So I'm really proud of this photo book. It's like, it'll be great just over a period of time, like after a few years, just to go back and see how my composition has evolved, how my tastes evolve, and always with black and white. I haven't evolved past that. I love black and white. By the way, I do get paid for photography. Everything for my professional work's all color, because if you shoot black and white, no one's going to hire. So it's such an unfortunate truth, but I can live in a world in black and white. I just absolutely love it. But I'm so proud of this photo book. I think this is one of the best things. These photo books are some of the best things I've ever made, out of videos, out of what else have I made for photos and everything like that. These photo books are, if I was to leave the earth, these are some of the things I'd offer up as my existence, as my contribution to my existence on this earth, if anyone finds that interesting. But I'm so proud of this. And another thing I like about, there's that image. Sorry, I probably showed this up before, but just in between rounds, it's so cool. But what I like about this, these are all realistic looks. Like, I do model photography, and it just a lot of looks, that they're making for the camera or professional sort of looks and stuff. They're great. I absolutely love it, but it's so refreshing when you're doing boxing and getting all these authentic looks. Like, look at how these guys are looking at the boxing, looking at the drama that's unfolding, the fear, the terror, the strategy that's going in their head, the worry that their student isn't doing their best, or hoping to do their best, the anticipation of a punch, or did I get him? Real expressions. There's just something so beautiful about it. And with the black and white as well, you just really focus on the people, and that's why I love black and white. You color can be a distraction, and with black and white you tend to just focus more on the drama. So yeah, that's why I really like it. But bloody, with the sparring helmets, everyone looks the same to me. But yeah, so I'm really, really proud of this. And again, I love shooting boxing and I can only get this close because I'm a boxing coach. So all these guys know me, and they're just happy to have me, shooting close. They're all really polite to me. So I get up really, really close, and I get these really interesting shots, and I just capture these facial expressions that I just think don't really exist in many other genres, especially modeling, and especially things like that. Like, I do like model photography, and I'll just bring up some of my model photography here, but they're obviously trying to look their best or coolest or favorite way they look when you have the camera on them, or you do headshots and things like that. But I know really, really high-end model photographers try to break that. They try to put in things like say, or what's your pet's name? They get them to say their pet's name. They quickly take a photo, just to break up those modeling poses, just to get more natural looks. So you get all of that in sports. All of the drama is captured in sports. So I absolutely love shooting sports. And then the other extra challenge of shooting it with a manual lens, getting those happy accidents, just all adds to the flavor of it. But yeah, I highly recommend Milkbooks despite the cost. I just think the black and white is just beautiful and just so elegant and just stunning. So yeah, highly recommend Milkbooks. This is definitely the company I'll be using going forward, because the black and white just looks absolutely incredible. I probably won't be editing JPEGs anymore. I just like editing off the RAWs. So it's like I like the hardcoreness of, oh, I'm just using JPEG RAWs to make this photo book. I'm going all hardcore. It's like a monochrome all the way. I'm just so used to photographing underexposed and then bringing it up later. I just can't train my muscle memory to try to nail exposure perfect every single time and just try to use JPEGs. It's just not my style. I like underexposed. Bring it into Lightroom, and then I can just star the ones I want. Add a preset, play around with the exposure, play around with the grain. I just like it like that better. So I won't be using the JPEGs going forward, although I do save them because Leica Monochrome is the greatest thing ever. Yeah, so absolutely proud of this photo book, and I highly recommend the Jupiter 3 lens. This was a $500-600 lens for me here in Australia. So I did hear some YouTubers say they got this under £100. I don't know, maybe in Europe you can get that here, but definitely in Australia this was $500-600. Maybe this is a really good clean copy. That's why it costs so much. It didn't come with the lens hood, by the way. I had to buy that separately. But I absolutely love the Jupiter 3. Very, very smooth focus ring. As you can see, a very, very smooth and very, very smooth aperture ring over here. So I'm absolutely loving the Jupiter 3. So yeah, I highly recommend it if you're after a lens. It goes down to f1.5. It's just a really cheaper alternative. I know everyone loves the sought after Leica Summilux 1.4, but guys, at $3 or $4 grand, like I'd absolutely love one, but I'd rather buy a cheaper lens that gets me, like this lens, this vintage Jupiter 3 Soviet vintage lens. If it does have flaws in it, it will only amplify the images in the genre of boxing. So shooting with a vintage lens only amplifies that grittiness of boxing, especially this is just an outdoor gym, and there's two gyms, one an outdoor gym at a person's house. He's just converted into a boxing gym, and this gym that you see inside here, this used to be a bikies hangout. Now it's converted to a boxing gym. So capturing all that on a vintage Soviet lens, if this lens does have flaws, it only adds to the theme, the grittiness of this book. But yeah, this is my photo book here on boxing, all shot with the Jupiter 3 lens. Highly recommend the Jupiter 3. It's an amazing vintage lens, really, really good. Decent price, I think, for what you get out of it. Beautiful images, and I highly recommend Milkbooks if you can afford it. Like it's pretty pricey for what you get. And this version, the magazine, this is the minimum amount, 80 pages, so it's a fair amount of photos. But yeah, I absolutely love making these books. Again, it's just something to reflect back on and just see how your composition and your tastes have evolved over time. And already I can see the last of the horizontal sort of photography going, and then me eventually going all in on vertical sort of photography. And I think I'm getting way better with the vertical photography because I'm just out there shooting, and this has encouraged me, like knowing that this photo book is going to be there at the end of the line, like at the end of a few months of shooting, or however long it takes me to rack up the amount of photos to make a photo book. Knowing that this here is waiting for me once I get to those 3 months and all I have to do is keep shooting is encouraging me to continuously shooting. And the more you're photographing, the more you're shooting, the better you're going to get, So the next photo book is going to be with the Canon 50mm 1.4, and maybe if I do a couple more like that with different 50mm vintage lenses, I might just tell you which one's my favorite at the end. But so far I haven't shot enough with the Canon 1.4 to say anything, but Jupiter 3, absolutely fantastic, highly recommended.